What do you think the term think outside the box really means? Our world, as we know it, no matter what shape you believe it to be, has been designed to keep the body, the mind, and the soul deep within multiple boxes with multiple layers. So we've heard the term all our life, think outside the box. And I want to truly show you what that means. Hello ladies and gents, my name's AJ Roberts, former squaddy knobhead turned spiritual knobhead. And I'm here today to talk about a life of boxes and what thinking outside the box truly means. So, as per before, I've used my trusted whiteboard, got my pen, okay, and I've already put a big design and some context on it for you so you can actually understand what I mean by this tutorial video of living inside a box. So, we have our trusted friend here, Keith, all right? Keith is your modern day being that lives his life inside a box, okay? And this isn't subjected to male adults. This is subjected to millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of beings out there who live their day from the minute they wake up in the morning to the minute they go to bed, living inside a box, okay? A box within the body, a box within the mind, and the box absolutely within the soul. So I wanted to do this design today, and I wanted to show you how the corners of the box all represent something in our societies, and this is the same blueprint, okay, in all Western cultures, all designed to work in unison with each other to keep the mind in a box. So then your body lives its life living a box-to-box life. So Keith here gets up in the morning and he's immediately consumed by marketing, social media, number of other things that we're all very aware of. Okay, so from the minute he gets up in the morning, he's already consuming a lot of these things that work hand in hand. Each corner of this box that I'm showing you now represents these big either corporations or entities that actually work in unison together, okay, to keep Keith and his mind in this box, running on programs designed by these entities, okay, on purpose to keep him ticking along, running on the program, propping all of these things up. Now, the reason I wanted to do this video as well is to show you that it is not our job, the people who are aware of all this, okay, to run around trying to wake Keith's up, okay? Keith isn't supposed to wake up. Keith is part of the program, all right? Is part of the false matrix on purpose, as are all of these illusionary things that are all designed to keep the mind in that illusionary matrix, in that illusionary field. Keith can break out of it eventually, okay, with conscious awareness, which we all have. We understand that all of these things are designed to keep us small, to keep our world small, to keep our world contained in the body, in the mind, and the soul within a box, okay? And that's why we all live, in essence, or been nudged into, the majority of people, unless you've really gone rural, into a box-to-box life, okay? Where we're not living off the land, we're not connecting to the sun, we're not connecting to nature at all. We literally get up in the morning, like Keith, okay, eat our crappy cereals or whatever we have for breakfast in our box. We jump in a box, to travel to a box to earn money to pay for that box and all the taxes and everything else like that. You then come home in a box, back to your box, all right, and spend most of the night sat in front of the box while the kids are upstairs on the Xbox. Totally disjointed family, okay? That's another thing about breaking up the family household, the family unit, all right? It's all to keep people within this system. So we have 8 corners to a 3D box, okay? So I've labelled them round here, okay? So starting at the top here, and we'll go around clockwise. We've got money, media, sport, law, government, religion, science. When I say science, that also covers like medicine and all that kind of stuff, and education. Over here, I've put some context to things that relate to these particular entities here, these controlling, governing entities. Okay, and I'll get to those in a minute. So to keep Keith's head in this box, it's important that one or more of these entities are always working together and always complementing each other at any one time. Okay, so you've got multiple programs running at any one time to keep Keith's head in a box. So let's just say, for example, one of the biggest things at the minute, which is really harming people's minds, the physical body, is money. Okay, money literally controls so much of all of this. Well, it's probably one of the biggest things. Money is an illusion. Okay, it's a currency. All right, and it's different in every country. I mean, I could do a whole thing just on money, but for the sake of this, money dictates a lot of your thoughts, a lot of your actions, a lot of your feelings and emotions, and it literally takes over people's lives and keeps them in massive amounts of fear. Okay, I've seen it all my life. Okay, so you don't come from a place of abundance. You never go, do you know what? I don't mind paying that because I know it's going to come back to me in abundance. It's like, oh, bills, 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 and almost like a crime if you don't pay them. All right, that's the brainwashing that's gone into people within these boxes that's put fear into thousands, millions of people on a day-to-day basis. There's people out there right now looking, going, well, do I pay my fraudulent council tax or do I buy ridiculously priced food from the supermarket? Either way, still fearful about money, okay? You're worried about paying that bill, but you're still in a fearful state going to the supermarket looking at the prices of absolutely every bit of food, which isn't really food, that's going at the minute. So money props all of these things up. It's actually what drives all these big corporations as well to keep making more money, keep making more money, keep making more money. And then more and more people need part of the pie. Okay, so all your directors, non-executive directors, your people at the top, your management, all this kind of stuff, whether it's in TV, sport, judiciary system, within the government, we all know how corrupt they are, right? But they need to keep feeding the system. Look how much money they all made off contracts and COVID, right? Religion, probably the biggest profiting entity out there, the Roman Catholic Church. Science, okay? Obviously all the pseudoscience out there. NASA, look how much money people pay in the United States in tax to go towards NASA, which is a complete fake illusionary body that's designed, again, to keep people's heads small and our world small, and this is as big as it gets, okay? The education system, most schools now are all businesses. You can't deny that, right? They're all called academies now. There's all people at the top running the show that are making massive amounts of money, right? They're making money out of parents now for these polyester PE kits and everything that all these kids have to wear. Like the list is endless. Okay, so let's just do a couple of examples here. So Keith, for example, all right, he is he works hard in his 9 to 5 job, okay, but when he comes home, he's absolutely knackered. First thing he does on the way home is listen to the radio. Okay, the radio is full of advertising, full of disinformation, depending on what you're listening to, and full of lots of nonsense, really. So he's being programmed on the way home, usually stuck in traffic, like everybody else, because everyone in the 9 to 5 is going home at the same time. All right. So he gets home. First thing he wants to do is stick the box on. So he sticks on some media, sticks on the television. He sticks on Sky Sports News, for example. All right. So sport. He's a big football fan, our Keith. All right. So he sticks Sky Sports News on. Right. And before people jump to the defence of Keith, there's nothing wrong with being interested in sport, and I'll come to that. But this is a 24-hour period I'm talking about here, and the day-to-day running programs that are controlling people's minds. So Keith sat there watching Sky Sports News. During the advertising breaks, all you see are adverts for rubbish food, depending on what time it is, alcohol, something to do with anything that's going to grab your attention. Yeah, fast food, alcohol, betting, gambling, and a number of other things that we call as vice. So vice meaning things that aren't good for you, okay? And that's just sitting down watching Sky Sports. Obviously the sport itself is what's the distraction, okay? So they use the distraction, okay, to bring in all the other stuff. So millions of men, especially across the UK, are obsessed with football, okay? I get it. But if you actually break down why they're obsessed with football, it's not actually for always for the love of the game. Often they see it as an escapism, especially men, from their daily lives that are dictated by all of this stuff. Okay, it's like escapism, and from the stress, from being on the tools all week to pay their ridiculous energy bills. All right. So it doesn't matter whether in the UK, the United States, Canada, whatever. Every country has their number one top sport and number two, number three. Obviously, for the UK, it's football or soccer. United States, it's like NFL, basketball, baseball, and then in Australia, you have Australian rules, rugby league, and obviously from a worldwide perspective, one of the biggest things is boxing. All right. So a night of boxing in most stadiums is packed with men, fueled with alcohol. All right, watching two other human beings beat the fuck out of each other. And I say that like with grace, having like boxed a lot in my younger days, but for the sport. If you actually see these sports on the grand stage, what they are, it literally just encapsulates the minds of everybody in those arenas, okay? And I've been to so many football games where the amount of men that are sat in front of me just on their phones most of the time, actually texting girls or their wives or something like that, right? And that's countries wide. So that in itself is a distraction, and it keeps the mind in a box. You then go to a football stadium, for example, and the only choices of food are hot dogs and pies and pasties, fizzy drinks, and things like that. Okay, so that's just when you go to a live game of anything. I mean, in America, like, have you seen the size of the Coke cups and that you get? They're like that. You know what I mean? Talking like a gallon almost. So back to Keith coming in. He's watching Sky Sports. Okay, he then decides, do you know what? We need to get some food. He's had a long day at work. He just wants to stand there and cook. Okay, so this is where Big Food comes in. Big Food are supplying people now, especially in the supermarkets, with heavily sprayed and intoxicated food that doesn't actually represent real food. Okay, most of it is being lab grown, it's GMO and stuff like that. Prime example, it takes a pineapple tree in Hawaii approximately 18 months to grow a pineapple, and when you take it off, it doesn't grow back. So how are they selling all these pineapples in Tesco's and Asda's and Aldi's and Lidl's for £1? Has it travelled from a tropical place to the rain England? No, it hasn't. Okay, so these big food companies work in unison with Big Pharma, okay, because they all come under the same band. Big Food produces all this rubbish food that Keith's then going to eat sat in front of his TV watching the news. Obviously making Keith more and more sedentary, okay? He's not active. He's just like sat in front of the box, in his box. Big Pharma comes in because Keith, after a period of time of eating all of these heavily intoxicated food, is suddenly going to start feeling sick. You add that to the stress of most people's jobs. You add that to the body being hit repetitively with electromagnetic frequency from all the devices and the smart systems that are in Keith's property. You then incorporate that with obviously the programs of everything else that is basically compounding Keith and his mind on a daily basis to the point where he gets sick. Obviously, we know sickness is the body's way of getting rid of all the toxins, and we shouldn't even call it sickness, okay? It is, we're getting better, we're getting well, all right? Keith doesn't know this because his head's in a box, right? He thinks he's sick, so he needs to go to the doctor to get some pills for his stress, his cholesterol, his anxiety, his almost depression, etc., etc. This is how they all complement each other. We also have law, all right? We're not taught anything about law at school on purpose. So when you're getting sent all your letters in bold capital letters, okay, which it isn't you, all right, it's a dead entity, it's a corporation that they're billing, all right, again, that's another complete lesson, all right, so we don't get taught anything to do with law, we don't get taught anything to do with legals and legalese. So when something does arrive or crop up, Keith hasn't got a clue, all right, he's just been watching the police camera action programs on TV at night where the police always catch the people. If he hasn't paid certain bills and that, a bailiff might turn up, right? Keith's been watching all the bailiff programs where big fat bold blokes dressed in black turn up to old people's houses or people who are clearly on benefits, and they win every time. Okay, so his mind's been programmed to shit himself when it comes to the law. Keith is also paying his council tax because he thinks it's against the law to not pay it. We have the government. Obviously, most of the stuff Keith is watching on the news at night time involves something, or at least 50% of the things, usually to do something to do with the government. And the BBC can tell Keith till the cows come home that the government is corrupt. This person's corrupt. This person's corrupt. This person's been done for this scandal. This person, this person, this person. None of them are getting arrested. Okay, so all that's doing is normalising it for Keith, that lying, cheating, deceit, all this kind of stuff is absolutely normal. All right? The prime ministers or top politicians or, front benchers, whatever we want to call them, when do you ever see a politician, male, that's got a big chest, set of arms, a beard, and actually speaks their truth? You don't, do you? They put these people on pedestals on purpose that basically are full of corruption, lies, and the language they use is very much along the lines of neuro-linguistic programming, so that NLP. So the government and the media work together to sell you their message. The best example you've got, which you've all experienced, is COVID. Okay, so they use the media to use repetitive information to bombard the brain with left brain information, which is all logic and reason, not creativity. So Keith here, while he sat having his poisonous food at night time that he's had to stick in the microwave because he's pretty skint, his mind's now being poisoned with all the lies, the deception, and everything else like that. Okay, we have religion. Religion relies on you giving your energy and your power to an outside entity that does not exist. Okay, so religion has been designed to indoctrinate billions around the world, to create a construct within the mind, many of heaven and hell, okay, which are fictional places that are just purely designed to keep all these people's minds in this kind of box, but also in fear, because they use it against you. If you don't do this, you won't go to heaven. Oh my God, you're going to hell. Yeah, that's what things like religion do, okay? Religions all have their place. I've met some of the most beautiful religious people. I'm not knocking that, okay? But the actual religion itself has taken the spirit, okay, out of you, the fact that you are the creator, that you create it all, and that you are God, okay? It's not an outside God, all right? And this is when you have thousands and thousands, or hundreds and hundreds of men that all turn up in random places preaching Islam, and they all get on their knees. So the men are going on their knees, so they're instantly giving their power away, placing their hands, bowing down to a deity, and then putting their third eye into the ground. Okay, there's not anything masculine about that. It's being done en masse, so you can see it's mass psychosis. And every single person is giving their personal power away to something else. And the ideologies around a lot of these religions is if you don't believe in their God, their deity, their outside influence, then you should either be killed or shunned or whatever that may be. Okay, that is the power of religion on the mind. You also have the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, you only have to look through history where the Roman Catholic Church ransacked England, Scotland, and everywhere else like that, brought in forced marriages, brought in the whole indoctrination to do with religion. They took over all the they took over all our energy centres, our cathedrals, our churches, and all that kind of stuff. Had churches rapidly built so they could fully implement this basically war on spirituality by bringing in religion, rely on. Okay, it wants your energy focused solely on that. So if you're on your knees, okay, and you're praying outside of yourself, you're not going within, okay? And Keith, and people like Keith who are in this situation, absolutely do not go within, okay? They give their power away to all of these entities here, all right? We then have science, okay? We're literally surrounded on a day-to-day basis by pseudoscience, okay? And people in the media that are there to push it, okay? So who do we know on the BBC that does lots of nature programs? He's been there this whole time, okay, to push certain narratives, to make you feel that the world around you is amazing, right? But at the same time, keep your mind in a box so that you only really experience true nature in its truest form by watching BBC documentaries sat in front of your TV, okay? We've also got the medicine side of it, all right? If germ theory was officially squashed, okay, so germ theory being the fact that we are taught, and the doctors and nurses and other people around medical sciences and stuff like that are all taught, is that we pass germs onto each other, okay? And because of that indoctrination across the world prior to COVID, that's why millions thought, oh my God, he's given me COVID, they've given me COVID, I must have caught COVID off this guy or this person, okay? Because of the indoctrination. But the fact is, we don't pass germs onto people at all, okay? It's a genuine thing. So you've got terrain theory and germ theory. If germ theory was squashed now, all right, millions and billions of Keiths would wake up to the fact that everything they've been taught, okay, since kids is a load of BS on purpose. And they need this, and they need millions of Keiths to believe germ theory, because otherwise, Big Pharma don't get paid. And germ theory being squashed is the one big thing that will literally cripple Big Pharma and rip it down, okay, from its foundations. When people wake up to the fact that you don't catch dis-ease off somebody else, okay? The dis-ease is dis-ease in your own body because of what you're putting in it, which comes from big food, what you're putting in your mind, which causes stress, media, social media, sitting there constantly fucking arguing with people all the time, okay? Money causes stress. People get stressed over their football team letting in a last minute goal, okay? They're stressed because they're worried about bills and they might have the law on their ass for this, that and the other. They're stressed because governments never keep their promises, neither do any politicians. They're stressed because God isn't listening to them. They're stressed because things are going on with their body. They don't understand stuff. Things aren't moving forward, okay? All the technology is phasing them, all right? And they're stressed because of exams or tests or things that are placed upon you, okay, as part of different education bodies, all right? So that's just stress that's caused from all these things keeping you in a box. The education system then, we absolutely know the education system is completely flawed. It's purely designed to keep Keith, that exact person. So the education system is designed on purpose, yeah, is designed on purpose to make sure Keith stays as an employee, stays as a 9 to 5 worker, stays in employment paying taxes his whole life. That's what they want from our kids, all right? They flood the brain with left brain information that is absolutely not needed or relevant, then gets them to regurgitate it via retention onto a piece of paper, which they're then judged on for their future. They're compartmentalized if they don't get a C or whatever it is like nowadays, like on their grading schemes. Okay, they literally do all of this on purpose, and that's why so many youngsters leave school with nothing, even though actually the best thing that's happened to them is leaving school, and they don't have a clue what they're going to do. Most teenagers, when they leave school, have no idea what they're going to do. So they go to college because they're like, well, that's what mum and dad said. Mum and dad said I need to go to college because then I go to uni and I get a degree and I can get the best mortgage then and the best car and the best best new build on an estate full of boxes that actually all look the same and all look like you're in a scene of SimCity. Okay, so the education system floods the mind. By the time Keith's left school though, you know, he's pretty much gone into work, and then after years and years and years and years repetitively working, he's so programmed in to the workplace, he actually feels guilty for not turning up. He actually feels guilty if he doesn't work late. He actually feels guilty if he doesn't feel guilty for chilling his family off in replace of work. All right, times that by millions of people, boom, you've got them in a box. So the education system plays its part massively. So I put some things here to add some context, okay? So we've got the BBC and the CNN are probably two of the biggest if not the biggest, media corporations in the world that drive so much. Okay, the BBC's influence is not just limited to the United Kingdom. Okay, it's literally worldwide. All right, we know the scandals that are coming out of the BBC. We know that the TV license is a complete fraud. All right, and they've been using their money for many nefarious things. Big Pharma, obviously heavily responsible for miles more deaths than they have saved lives. Okay, there's not a single vaccine that saves lives, not one. All right, the revelations about the COVID vaccines that are coming out now en masse, and this is something that I've worked on with a number of other people for a good few years. The people that have been hitting this hard have done the most amazing job, and actually the revelations coming out about how how corrupt the police are, the government, the doctors, the scientists, the nurses, all these people that said follow the science, follow the science, follow the science, and not the money. All right, they said follow the science, but not the money. Okay, a lot of people are suffering now as a result. There's been a lot of deaths, a lot. Okay, COVID did not exist. All right, guess what happened? Big Pharma, the media, even sport and their influencers, the law especially, the government especially, religion absolutely, science, what science? And education, schools, okay? All of these entities here all work together during COVID to keep as many people's heads in a box as possible so they all queue up for their new medicine, okay? And this is the medicine that's harmed, in fact, I'm not going to call it a medicine, somebody obviously works with actual medicines, this bioweapon that was pushed on people, people were coerced, people were threatened with their jobs. In different countries it was different, all right, but it had to be dependent on the demographic. Again, the mind control was based on the actual populace of the place, okay, using local media and national media to drive home certain marketing campaigns, okay, to keep Keith and Karen in a box, okay. We have the school system here. Obviously, the school system played a massive part during COVID, all right. Millions of teachers were coercing children into getting COVID vaccines, even though their parents had said no, right? There's so much evidence about this. The education system continues to push the flu jabs and the flu mist onto children. The education system continues to tell all these children they need to get HPV vaccines, even if you're a boy, okay? The education system has nudged, okay, the age at which a child is subjected to sexual education down further and further and further to the point where they're allowing and making references to it in books and all sorts from the age of 4, 5, 6 years of age. Okay, and this has been normalised. The school system has ring-fenced their schools, making them literally look like prisons and feel like prisons. And I tell you what, ladies and gents, most of the kids feel like they're at prison. So that works in conjunction with everything else, feeding the minds of these children with a lot of lies, especially around history, especially around science, okay? Flooding their mind with stuff about religion that they don't need to know because religion is a load of bollocks, all right? They've taken the spirit out of absolutely everything within these children at schools so that when they leave, they're just all robotic, full of sugar, full of marketing, full of idols, false idols they don't need to follow, so they just blindly line up and go from one job to the next to the next. But it doesn't matter what job they're in as long as they're paying taxes. That's the point. With religion, Roman Catholic Church and Islam especially, I've said to you about it before earlier in the video, these two religions in particular, heavily controlling, okay, and they do not come from a place of organic love. Obviously, a lot of the Catholic Church comes from a place of different love, as we know. We have voting and politics, obviously all comes back round to government and even religion and a number of other things, but they have voting systems set up on purpose, whether that is in sport, okay, vote for your player of the year, vote for this, vote for that. Obviously, through law, you have voting and obviously politics within government, that goes without saying. Religion has a massive part to play in it. And science and education, obviously, they'll be drumming home what the Labour Party's doing or what the Conservative Party's doing, because they put news round on and things like that in schools. So the kids are getting piled a bit as well, prepping them to be able to vote when they're 18, thinking that you're being given power to actually have a say in your country. It's not. That is the illusion. The illusion is for you to think that you have the power to actually have any impact whatsoever, when we all know that voting is all rigged. The 2016 was US election, massive outside foreign interference. The 2020 election was completely rigged, all right, and set up. Okay, there's so much evidence out there. Go and watch 2000 Mules if you haven't done so already. The London mayor ballot, completely rigged. You can see that from a mile off, right? Sadiq Khan's in his third term, which shouldn't actually be a thing as well. He's actively protecting grooming gangs, paedophilia. The crimes that guy is complicit in is endless. Okay, I don't have to keep going on about it. All right, but again, it's a massive distraction. So it keeps you in a 4-year cycle. Now tell me, ladies and gents, and Keith might even be able to actually nod about this, what politician has gone on TV and then the government have then become the leaders of government that have actually done anything that they promised? It doesn't matter if it's UK, United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, wherever. When? They don't. It's to keep you in a 4-year loop whilst everybody's busy driving around the country, going to work, propping up the systems. Okay, I talked about football and NFL, boxing, 3 sports. There's lots of other sports. Okay, sport in general, playing it as a participant is amazing. You keep fit, this, that, and the other. Obviously, the ugly side of it, and it was one of the things that put me off football for a while, and coaching youngsters in the football team, was standing on the sideline and watching parents fighting, people on the pitch and stuff like that, because it all comes from a place of ego. That's when that side of sport, needs to be addressed. The legals and legalese, okay, the two differences and the language that's used to basically encapsulate your mind, to put you into fear, so you think you're going to go to jail for not paying a bill or getting the bailiffs round, because they use big, bold, scary, hurty words on purpose. Big food, one of the biggest culprits in the whole world, okay, for sickness, death, disease, okay, all owned by big, giant moguls and globalists. Again, these all work in unison. In the UK, people have been priced out of eating organic food. So please tell me, if something's organic, why does it need to be called organic? And why is it more expensive than stuff that's clearly made in a factory or sprayed and things like that? But people are being priced out on purpose. And until the people actually fight back on this, refuse to buy from these supermarkets, start supporting local markets and farmers and everything else like that, because the farming industry has been attacked on purpose, because that's where we get our fresh food from, right? Until that happens, you're going to be paying £5-6 for a pack of fake mints. When I was a kid, my mum used to buy a pound of mints for a pound, and then you'd make about 3 or 4 meals out of it. Okay? Until people stop paying these stupid prices for fake food, which is poisoning the gut and many other parts of the body and causing massive cancers, okay? Keith here is going to end up with cancer in his 50s and 60s. Why are 1 in 2 people getting cancer compared to 1 in hundreds years ago? Okay, it's because of all these things working together, keeping Keiths and Karens in a box of illusion, constantly sick, constantly stressed, constantly full of dis-ease, constantly under mind control, constantly looking outside of themselves, constantly giving their power away. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how all of these systems harvest your energy from every part of your body, from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed, keeping you in a constant box of illusion. And that is why going through an awakening process, okay, so you start connecting with the land more, right? Start connecting with the land more, you start seeing the world for what it really is. okay? You start listening to your soul. You start stepping away from all the nefarious programs. You start stepping away from negative people. You stop seeking validation. You know, all of these things is a part of an awakening journey, okay? It often takes things to trigger that for people. COVID was a massive one, as it was a catalyst in so many people's awakenings to who they truly are and being able to think outside the box. And as soon as you start thinking outside the box, you see every single one of these systems for exactly what they are, okay? So, please share this with someone you might feel lives in boxes, okay? It might be the very thing that triggers them and gets them to understand that all of these things are not your friends, okay? They all work hand in hand together, and all the CEOs and executives and things like that of all these major companies all have shares in each other's companies, okay? So Big Food, for example, the owners of Coca-Cola, your McDonald's, your Burger Kings and all this kind of stuff, they all have shares in big pharma companies because these guys are responsible for making people sick in the first place. So where do they go to? They go to big pharma, right? And so on. And this is how all these systems work in unison with each other to work hand in hand, making maximum profit, keeping maximum people dumbed down into the reality they want to keep them in, and keeping everybody's mind firmly in a box. Till next time, ladies and gents, I'm AJ Roberts, signing off and getting the fuck out of the box.